The blinding lights of the MGM Grand Garden Arena in Las Vegas, June 28, 1997, boxing was about to witness one of its most shocking nights, a night that would redefine the boundaries between sport, rage, and chaos. The air inside the arena felt electric, almost unstable. The tension was so thick it could be carved with a knife. The audience had come not just to see a rematch, they had come to see redemption. Mike Tyson, once the most feared man on the planet, was standing across from Evander Holyfield, the man who had humiliated him just 7 months earlier. The wounds from that first defeat hadn't healed, not in Tyson's body, and certainly not in his pride. The bell rang for round 1, and the crowd erupted. Tyson came out like a coiled spring, bobbing, weaving, and throwing with the ferocity that had once made him unstoppable. He was fast, alert, and desperate to reclaim the image of invincibility that had been torn away. Across from him stood Holyfield, calm and calculating, the embodiment of discipline and faith. He didn't flinch when Tyson lunged in. He didn't step back when the punches came in flurries. Instead, he absorbed, deflected, and returned fire with the poise of a man who had already cracked the Tyson code once before. The opening round was a study in contrasts, Tyson's raw aggression against Holyfield's measured control. But even in those first 3 minutes, there were hints that something wasn't right. As Tyson ducked inside to close the distance, his forehead collided with Holyfield's, opening a small cut above Mike's right eye. He immediately backed away, swiping at the blood. The referee, Mills Lane, stepped in to check the damage. The crowd roared, sensing the drama already beginning to unfold. Tyson's corner, led by Richie Giachetti, worked frantically between rounds, trying to stem the bleeding. But the cut wasn't just physical, it symbolized the fracture in Tyson's composure. As round 2 began, Tyson came forward with renewed fury. Every punch seemed to carry years of frustration. He swung wide, lunged in, and dug hooks into Holyfield's body, trying to break him down. Holyfield stayed patient, absorbing the punishment and answering with short, sharp counters. He pushed Tyson backward, just as he had done in their first fight, smothering his rhythm. Tyson was clearly irritated, his face contorted with rage as he felt another clash of heads. To him, it wasn't accidental anymore, it was personal. He believed Holyfield was butting him intentionally, and each graze of the skull only stoked the fire burning in his chest. By the end of the second round, Tyson's frustration had boiled over. His eye was bleeding again, and the calm, cold Holyfield still stood in front of him, seemingly unaffected. The commentators could feel the energy shifting. The great Mike Tyson, known for ending fights in seconds, was unraveling. In his corner, his team tried to calm him down. "Box smart," they told him. "Don't let him get in your head." But Tyson wasn't listening anymore. The world's most feared boxer wasn't fighting Holyfield's body now. He was fighting his own demons. When round 3 began, the intensity exploded. Tyson stormed across the ring, landing heavy hooks to the body, but Holyfield pushed forward again, his head tucked low as he crowded Mike against the ropes. Then, in a moment that froze the entire boxing world, Tyson leaned in close and bit Evander Holyfield's ear. It was quick, almost impossible to believe at first. Holyfield jumped back, screaming in shock and pain, clutching his head as blood began to pour down the side of his face. Mills Lane immediately stepped between them. The arena went silent. For a few seconds, no one knew what they had just seen. Tyson stood in the corner, chest heaving, eyes blazing, while Holyfield turned in disbelief, yelling to the referee that his ear had been bitten. Mills Lane looked stunned, almost lost in the chaos, but he made his decision, a 2-point deduction. The fight would continue. The crowd erupted into a mix of boos and cheers, half in outrage, half in fascination. The commentators' voices trembled as they described the replay. On screen, the moment was horrifyingly clear. Tyson lunging forward, his mouth closing around Holyfield's ear, tearing away a piece of flesh like a predator in a rage. When the fight resumed, Holyfield came out determined but visibly shaken. Tyson, meanwhile, was no longer boxing. He was charging, snarling, almost out of control. Within seconds, as they clinched again, Tyson did it once more. A second bite. This time, there was no mistaking his intent. Mills Lane jumped in, waving his arms, shouting for the bell. It was over. The ring descended into madness. Tyson, eyes wild, continued to lunge toward Holyfield, trying to get at him even after the disqualification was announced. Trainers and security flooded the ring as chaos erupted around them. Fans in the stands screamed, some in disbelief, others in rage. The once great champion, the youngest heavyweight in history, had just committed one of the most shocking acts ever seen in professional sports. Evander Holyfield stood in the center of it all, blood running down his neck, shaking his head in disbelief. He wasn't angry, just stunned. He had survived wars in the ring, fought men bigger, faster, stronger, but he had never imagined something like this. Tyson, meanwhile, was being restrained, shouting toward Holyfield, his fury boiling over into incoherent rage. As security pulled Tyson away, the commentators struggled to find words. "This is unbelievable," one said, voice heavy with disbelief. "I've never seen anything like it." Another added, "It's like something out of a horror movie, Dracula in boxing gloves." The replays kept rolling, Holyfield's face twisting in agony, Tyson's jaw snapping forward, the chunk of ear missing. Each angle made the act seem even more surreal. When Mills Lane finally announced the official disqualification, Tyson was still pacing, refusing to accept it. The fans hurled cups and debris into the ring. The air filled with noise, shouts, boos, chaos. It wasn't a fight anymore, it was a circus of disbelief. Tyson had crossed a line from fighter to outlaw, from champion to villain. Afterward, in the locker room, Tyson tried to explain himself. He claimed Holyfield had been headbutting him repeatedly and that he'd snapped in retaliation. But the world wasn't ready to hear excuses. The images were too powerful, too grotesque.